From Bloomberg Television, the business of politics and the politics of money. This is Political Capital.
We start the program with Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Senator, thank you for being with us.
Glad to be with you.
Let's start. President Obama and the BP oil spill catastrophe. How has he handled it, and should he have done anything differently?
Well, I don't think he's done anything to prevent the leak from being fixed. If there was anybody with a better idea, the administration hasn't kept them out of the game. So at the end of the day, we're trying everything under the sun to stop the leak, and it's not his fault that we can't find a way to cap it. I think the criticism is fair that he's been less than responsive to state officials and local officials about ways to mitigate the effects of the spill. The governor of Louisiana has been begging for more help, the ability to build barriers to keep the oil from coming into the wetlands and the estuaries. So I would give him fairly low marks in terms of responding to the consequences of the spill, but stopping the leak, nobody could do any better.
He said this week that he wanted to find out, quote, whose ass to kick, end quote. Do you have any suggestions?
Oh, long list. No, at the end of the day, he gets accused for not being emotional.
Right.
I don't know what he's supposed to do. I mean, he is who he is. He's been very successful in life, being Barack Obama. My advice to the president is be yourself. And he is a measured guy. Emotion doesn't come easy to him. He's the president of the United States, and you have to be reserved. But I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen more empathy. Bill Clinton was very good at this kind of stuff. And President Bush, I think, showed some empathy and leadership right after 9/11 with a bullhorn. What he needed was sort of a bullhorn moment, where he went to the Gulf and said, "We're going to get this right. I'm going to get the
have that?"
Well, I tell you what, he's making up lost ground. But start with the companies that were involved, that were in charge of the drilling. Make sure that we hold them accountable for the damage done, and find out what happened and have regulatory and measures in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't think most Americans want to particularly kick anybody's ass as much as they want to make sure it doesn't happen again and get it fixed.
Right. Let me shift this climate change. Are man-made emissions the main cause of climate change? Just a simple yes or no.
I don't know. Are you asking the guy that made a D in science? That's what I love about this job. Only in America can you make a D in science and be involved in climate change. The idea that man-made emissions are contributing to the planet heating up makes sense to me in theory, but I think they've oversold. I think Al Gore deserves a lot of credit for bringing up environmental concerns, but at the end of the day, I think they've oversold.
You've spent a lot of time on it. Now, you've dropped off the Kerry Lieberman climate bill, and you've just supported an energy bill that gives the industry incentives to do better. No caps, no price. Can this measure be compromised with Kerry Lieberman, or is that climate bill dead?
Here's where I think we're going to go eventually. Sherlock Holmes said that what's left on the table is the answer. So we're working our way through this climate energy debate. The one thing we'll never get 60 votes is a bill based on the idea of preventing global warming. Right. There's not a consensus in America to turn the economy upside down to prevent global warming. There is a consensus that carbon pollution should be controlled, that energy independence is a must.
So could you still put that kind of a compromise together this year?
Okay, you got to do three things. I don't know about this year. You got to do three things this year or soon. Break our dependency on foreign oil. That means to change the way we drive our cars, find more and use less. Domestic exploration has to be part of any solution that I will embrace. Right. The environmental community has been pretty reasonable, quite frankly. Kerry, Graham, and Lieberman moved the ball a long way. Why did I get involved? Not because I believe that global warming was the imminent demise of mankind, but I believe we need a rational energy policy to break our dependency on foreign oil, to create jobs here rather than China, and to clean up the air. And here's what I was willing to do. If you'll allow me to expand domestic exploration, revenue sharing with those states who agree to offshore drilling, preempt the EPA so my business community doesn't have to be hit by carbon regulation, expand nuclear power production, I will agree to put a price on carbon. And that is the grand bargain. What happened? The oil spill compromised the oil offshore drilling provisions. Well, I don't see how in the world I could get 50 votes for expanded drilling when we don't know what happened. Right. I wouldn't even vote to expand drilling right now.
Right. China currency. You're involved in everything.
Yeah, God, yes.
You and Senator Schumer are going to push a measure on the Senate floor that require the Treasury to, in essence, force China to revalue its currency. Now, we've been there. We've been there before.
Yes.
And nothing ever happens. Same time, same thing this year?
All right. We got 67 votes about 4 years ago.
Right.
for a 27.5% tariff on all Chinese products unless they floated the currency. We were hoping to get 41. When we got to 67, I started talking people out of voting for it because we unleashed some hidden forces in the Congress. Right. The frustration with China's trade practices are growing by the moment. Our deficit with China is going through the roof. They're manipulating their currency. The laws of basic economics would suggest if you export as much as China does, they're an exporting economy, your currency should go up, not stay stagnant or go down. So we're going to push a provision, a bill that would allow the Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary to deem China as having a misaligned currency and allow the Treasury Department and the Commerce Department to take action against China consistent with the WTO.
And what are the odds that'll become law this year?
The odds of it passing the Senate are about 90 to 10.
And how about becoming law this year?
Well, this is going to be a test of the Obama administration. There's something in the water.
Don't you think it's pretty unlikely he'd sign that?
Well, let me tell you, he campaigned that he would stand up to China currency manipulation. We're going to get a huge vote in the Senate. They'll get a huge vote in the House. I don't know if the president will veto it or not. If he does, he runs the risk, I think, of having it overridden.
Let me ask a final question, because you've been criticized by some of those people in South Carolina. Is it, for a general election now, should Republicans run by energizing the base, which everyone agrees they ought to do, and is it a mistake to reach out to centrist independent voters?
If it gets impossible to do compromise on immigration, energy, and climate, then the country is going to go away from the two-party system. Here's the problem I see. Blanche Lincoln dodged a bullet. You've had other people here lose their jobs in primaries, and the big charge against them was that they were less than cooperative with a left or right agenda.
Right.
So my belief is that the middle, the center of the country is mad because we can't work together. The left and the right's mad because we won't do everything they say. And somebody's got to break this cycle. My belief is that I come from a state that will reward conservatism that also can find compromise.
Well, Senator Graham, thank you so much for being with us. When we come back, we'll talk about the BP oil spill and President Obama.